Sally kneels in her living room in front of the couch, picking at it in the last of the invisible places. By now there's little left there but the raw net of threads, which keeps the seat in shape, but it's okay. It's worth it. It sends waves of relief throughout her body, calming her down, relaxing her a bit anytime there's something gnawing at her mind. She's worried about Taya now. Messing with human psyche is a dangerous game. And the more she thinks about it, the more she hates the idea of the demon-spotting hypnosis. It's been a while. There is already some evening TV talk show yammering in the background. Finally, the cell phone rings. Can you pick me up? Sally is out the door before she answers, on my way. She finds Taya alone in Aridio's office. Sat on the couch with her legs folded up, she looks so frail. In her shaking hands she has a half-full cup of tea, and a large spill on her shirt tells Sally where the other half went. Oh my God, what happened? Sally rushes to her. Shh, it's good. I'm just a little shaken up. I need to rest, and he said I shouldn't drive. Sally tries to gather her thoughts as she helps Taya walk downstairs into the car. But she doesn't know what to think, where to start thinking. Taya, what did this machine do to you? She asks as she pulls the seatbelt around her friend. Taya looks somewhere into the distance. It wasn't easy, she says quietly. I will need a little while to pick myself up. Dream a few nightmares. Process. But I don't mind this time. But what happened there? Sally must know. Taya merely shakes her head. She turns a little to the side, leans her head on the backrest and closes her eyes. Throughout the entire drive home, Sally keeps checking on her breath and heartbeat, paranoid, afraid that at any moment they will stop. She wakes Taya up when they're under her building. It's closing in on midnight, so Arte is at work. Sally will stay here until he comes back, but she doesn't tell Taya, afraid that her friend will send her home, caring more about Sally's well-being than her own, as always. She tries to make Taya eat something or at least drink, but Taya refuses both. And just this one thing happens that leaves Sally more poignant than panicking for the long hours of the night to come. Taya says, "Thank you, and good night." And for the first time in months, the smile that follows reaches her eyes. Sally is having a bad night. It probably has to do with everything and nothing at the same time. It's been 3 weeks since Taya's session in the demon spotting device. She has found the magic she'd been looking for. Or perhaps she was simply desperate enough to believe in the machine hard enough to turn it into her coveted miracle. No matter, she's better. But now Sally begins to see a chasm opening between them. On one side there's Taya recovering her joy of life. On the other, Sally. She's spiraling down as night after night drag her further into the pit of apathy where she stays until Taya reaches down and picks her up. They are becoming a patient and a caretaker, and Sally can't help but to feel that they're losing each other. She can see how Taya holds back her joy when they're together, not to rub it in, not to let Sally feel she's falling behind. Has it been this way before? Has she simply forgotten? No, she doesn't think so. Though it's getting more and more difficult to say, as the pressure on her chest seems less increasing and more eternal. Like it's always been this way. Like her breath has always wheezed, like she has always been so afraid to fall asleep that sometimes she goes for 2 or 3 days without a wink. She lies under this weight and fights to awaken, but she can't. Her method doesn't work as she cannot find any of her toes or fingers. She has nothing to latch onto. She can't get a start. And she feels it's here, growing ever stronger. The presence. The presence of someone, something that stands just outside of her field of vision, waiting. It's not the invisible demon on her chest she's afraid of, because that's right here in front of her, and she knows all it wants to do is suffocate her. But the presence is the unknown, and the unknown is what breeds fear that can keep one awake for days. When she closes her eyes, and that's all she can do, she almost feels the ghostly touch on her skin, the caress of the cold breath, and she can't help but think of a skeletal hand of the Grim Reaper. She doesn't want to die. She sucks in the air with all her strength, and there it is, the tingling in her little finger. She grabs onto it with her full power of will and takes this tingling and turns it into a movement. Slight, gentle wiggle, and that is enough to give her back the power and let her escape. She wakes. She gets up and makes her way to the living room. TV offers infomercials and she doesn't mind. They go well with picking on the soon-to-be-replaced couch. The plaque on Aridio's doorframe lies today. We all have our demons, but they are not who we are, it says. There is little else left in Sally. No ambition, no passion, not even energy, for how can you have energy without sleep? She knocks, and the man ushers her in. It's early morning, but he didn't mind. He offers her a cup of tea and she accepts. She hasn't drunk or eaten anything since yesterday. She tries not to cry as she tells him about her past, the sleep paralysis, the weight on her chest, and the presence drawing closer. She fails at holding back the tears, but there is a box of tissues already waiting on her side of the table. Aridio listens, patient. And only when she breaks down into tears again and speaks of her fear does he say, "Whatever your demons are, they are not separate beings. They come from you, they are made of you. Therefore they cannot ever be stronger than you are. You can beat them, you can trick them, you can outrun them if that's what you have to do. But as long as you don't give up, you can win, because you have all of your power and wit and agility. They are merely shards, fragments. So what? Fear takes it all away. I can't. When you face your demon, name it, describe it, get to know it, even if it's just a projection you create in your mind. That will give you some more power over it. As you say, the scariest is the unknown. What if I can't? What if I fail? She asks. Taya didn't tell me what happened to her. But she said it was hard, and God, I saw that she barely made it. And she's stronger than me. There is always an escape, Aridio says. An exit you will know instantly. It's a failsafe the machine creates for you. Reach it and you'll return here. And if I can't? Aridio picks up a paper from a pile. The liability waiver. He meets Sally's eyes and wants to say, "I'm sorry." But Sally raises her hand. She doesn't want to hear it. It doesn't matter. The pen glides over the paper and in mere seconds it's done. Funny how it's easier to sign away her life than write a eulogy for those that gave it to her. Sally's manifestation. It's astonishing how exact her memory replica of this room is. The shade of cyan on the walls, the cork bookshelf, and the wooden desk meticulously painted lilac. The matching carpet, so soft Celie often just lay on it and stroke it, pretending it was an animal she couldn't have due to her mother's allergies. The lamps, the toys, everything. It was all crafted for her with an attention to detail worthy of a room of an only child. The opposite wall was covered in pictures, and should Celie try to remember nowadays what was on them, she's certain she'd fail. And yet, using the remnants still present in her mind, a reduce machine recreated the pictures in perfect detail. They depict a family of bunnies Celie used to make stories about. What did she call them? The fluffers? The hoppers? See, she can't remember. Though there is actually another image of the rabbits, slightly to the right. She drew it herself, and on it she wrote the name of the family in big capital letters. But Celie can't see that one, because there is a swirling cloud of blackness on top of her, the demon that holds her down on the bed. There's that painting by Henry Fuseli called The Nightmare. In the painting, a demonic-looking dwarf sits atop of a sleeping woman, while a hell-born horse lurks about. There are multiple interpretations of the piece, but one of them has a special meaning to Celie. According to some, Fuseli meant to depict what happens to people when they are asleep. It explains why sometimes, when one is only half awake, they can experience being burdened by a weight pushing down on their chest, or sense a presence in the room that has no business being there. A lucid mind brushing against the other realm. Nowadays, this experience is commonly called the sleep paralysis. Most people don't believe in demons, of course, so they accept it as mere projections of a wandering mind. As far as Celie knows, not everyone suffering from the condition feels the weight, and not everyone senses any presence. Some people say they can actually see their paralysis demons wandering about their rooms or standing at the feet of their beds. Her own case, though, is the most simple of all. There is the weight, and there is the presence, that's all. But now that she can finally see the demon on her chest, it's nothing like the impish dwarf from the painting. She can't distinguish any shapes in the being at all, and she knows why. He's not the important one here. The other one is present as well, standing and watching from a distance, always trying to just watch from afar, to be far away, to be somewhere else. Yet this time she doesn't keep her distance. She comes closer, as she was trying to do ever since the funeral, braver now than ever before. She touches Celie's face gently, and it's not the skeletal hand of the Grim Reaper, no. It's a small, warm hand of a child. The other one joins it, and they cradle Celie's head. Celie doesn't need to give the presence a name, after all. They carry the same one. The girl leans in and whispers to Celie's ear. You don't need to be here anymore. You're strong enough. She's right. Celie has full control over her body. Every finger and every toe, every limb, and the whole rest of it. But this time, the weight is not tied to the dream state of sleep paralysis. It's back here, tangible, once again squeezing the life out of her. You can stand up. Celie braces herself and remembers that she is stronger than him now. She can stand up. She must. She will. With a push, she straightens up and throws the dark weight off her. And it lies there on the floor, on that soft carpet where Celie used to lay for hours. The demon is shapeless, faceless, irrelevant. It's worth this one final glance and nothing more. Not a single thought, not a word, not a eulogy. Celie takes the girl's hand in hers and says, we can go. And they do, but not in any rush. It is not an escape. is just an exit. Sally opens the door of her old room and she expects to see hallway leading to the kitchen. But there's nothing there. Nothing she knows. Nothing from the past. They leave together, not making the mistake of Lot's wife. "We'll be fine," she promises. And she replies, "I know."